I recently watched the movie Honk for Jesus, Save Your Soul, which can be viewed on Peacock. Now, by the way, it may be spoilers in this breakdown, so if you haven't watched the film yet and don't want it spoiled, go and check it out now. But come back and let me know your thoughts and see if you picked up on some of the same things I did. So anyway, this movie sparked a conversation between myself, my sisters, and my mother. We found ourselves exploring the film's message and trying to interpret what certain things meant, especially since the film was left open-ended. Or was it? I'll explain what I mean by that at the end, so stick around. But anyways, that's what got me thinking that Honk for Jesus would be an excellent way to explain literary devices and how they deepen the storytelling of a screenplay. Now, but before we jump into that, let me give you a little backstory of the film. Honk for Jesus, Save Your Soul is a feature-length adaptation of Adama Ebo's, I know I'm butchering her name, sorry, 2018 short film that can currently be viewed on Short Film Sundays via Issa Rae's Hubris Media, right here on YouTube, y'all, so you can check that out. Alright, so Ebo also wrote, directed, and produced alongside Daniel Kaluuya and Jordan Peele the feature film version, which marks her feature film directorial debut. Now, this is a great example of why indie filmmakers should shoot short films. In my 10 reasons why you should make a short film video, I explain several other reasons, so go ahead and check that out once you finish this video. Okay. Now, Honk for Jesus, Save Your Soul is a mockumentary. A mockumentary is a fake documentary or dark comedy. Now, some people don't find this story too funny because it's kind of hitting home, okay? So a mockumentary depicts fictional events but is presented as a documentary. Mockumentaries are often presented with B-roll and talking heads discussing past events, or the filmmakers follow the subject as they go through various events. However, Ebo did break from the mockumentary style of filming from time to time and just shot the film in the traditional narrative structure. Now, the movie stars Regina Hall as Trinity Childs, the proud first lady of a Southern Baptist megachurch, who together with her husband, Pastor Lee Curtis Childs, played by Sterling K. Brown, once served a congregation in the tens of thousands. But after a scandal forces their church to close temporarily, Trinity and Lee Curtis must reopen their church and rebuild their congregation to make the biggest comeback that commodified religion has ever seen. Okay, so now you know what the film is about. So in today's video, I will briefly summarize the following literary elements and devices, which are theme, satire, allegory, symbolism, motif, and metaphors. These writing techniques significantly deepen the story of your screenplay. So I will use the literary devices I noticed in Honk for Jesus, Save Your Soul to illustrate how to use these literary devices. So are you ready to get into it? Let's go. Now, what's up, my Diversity in Cinema Academy fam? I'm Theta Catalan, and this is the place to be if you're an aspiring filmmaker, video creator, and screenwriter, or if you just want to know about Honk for Jesus, okay? Now, as you may well know, art is subjective and can be left up to interpretation. So the breakdown that I am about to give is my interpretation of the movie. I would love to hear your thoughts as well, so leave a comment below. Now, before we jump into the 5 literary devices, I will share one literary element that impacts how you use these devices. Now, this element is the theme of your story. A theme is the message of the story. It typically has an open-ended message about society or humanity, which leaves the story up for interpretation. This allows the audience to debate over the topics, which would be great for word-of-mouth publicity. Some of the themes I picked up on were hubris, which refers to excessive self-confidence and the terrible decisions that arise from it. Now, Pastor Lee Curtis was definitely a narcissist at his finest, and because of that personality trait, he couldn't identify with his terrible decisions and how they genuinely impacted others. Because of this, he could not find it in himself to apologize to his wife or the community for his wrongdoings. He simply made excuses. I'm an imperfect man. I'm a sinner.
But I'm no criminal.
Now, the next theme is man versus self. Man versus self refers to the protagonist as their own adversary. To overcome certain challenges, the protagonist must first overcome their own internal conflicts. Both Trinity and Pastor Lee Curtis had this challenge. However, their pride and egos got in the way of them overcoming this challenge. They were too caught up in the materialism and what they had built. They desired worldly things more than self-healing. This leads me to the next theme, which is power and corruption. Power corrupts. Power can refer to a person's political leadership, personal wealth, physical prowess, etc. Honk for Jesus dabbles a little into exploring church politics and all the power struggles and political maneuvering in churches. This is noted when another church is seemingly battling for territory and looking for a comeuppance from the downfall of Wander to Greater Past Baptist Church. Plus, with him being accused of sexual misconduct, he again is corrupting his power. Now, the last theme explored is identity. At some point in their life, the protagonist asks, "Who am I?" Now, Trinity lost herself in the church with what her mother expected and what her husband wanted. She's only able to identify as a first lady. So she was willing to embarrass herself and put on a modern day minstrel show to keep hold of power. Now, minstrel shows characterize black people as dim-witted, lazy, buffoonish, superstitious, and happy-go-lucky. Now, Pastor Lee Curtis also struggled with his identity. He was confused or just plain old didn't want to accept his sexual identity. So he cloaked his bad deeds with, "I'm just trying to help these young men out." Trinity also tried to put her head in the sand by labeling it as him being too generous. Okay, girl, whatever. Now, they both were trying to fool themselves. So for power, Trinity willingly gave up her dignity. Those were a few examples of themes, which is an essential part of writing. When submitting to grants, fellowships, or even pitching your script, this question is always asked. What is the theme of your story or film? So take time to determine what message you're trying to convey in your story. Now, with that being said, you don't want to hit people over the head with your message, okay? It should be subtle. And that's what these 5 literary devices that I'm about to share with you will do for you. Now, but before we do that, here's my friendly reminder. Please hit the subscribe button and turn on your notifications if you want to continue receiving content that helps turn your productions into a profitable business model. Also, hit the like button if you love the content I am providing. It really does give me a boost in the algorithm. Okay, so let's get back to it, y'all. Alright, so the first literary device is satire. Satire is an often humorous way of poking fun at the powers that be. Sometimes it is created to drive social change. Now, Honk for Jesus poked fun at mega churches that focus on the prosperity gospel, massive egos, and impoverished congregants. This film social commentary hopefully should open the eyes of those falling victim to predatory churches under the guise of saving souls. The following literary device is an allegory. Allegory is used to express large, complex ideas in an approachable manner. Allegory allows writers to create some distance between themselves and the issues they are discussing, especially when those issues are strong critiques of political or social realities. Like them passages, y'all. Okay, now the different characters that make up the story may represent real life figures. For instance, Honk for Jesus seems to mirror the story of Bishop Eddie Long. He was the controversial megachurch leader who fell from grace after he was accused of sexually coercing 4 young male congregants. Or the movie could even be mirroring Pastor Creflo Dollar, who took fire for asking his parishioners to donate $300 each so he could buy a $65 million Gulfstream G650, okay, for doing ministry abroad. Now, Creflo has since changed his tune, also he say, alright? So, if you find any value in anything I have shared with you so far in this video, go ahead and hit that like button and let me know, and let that YouTube algorithm know. Now, let's dive into these last 3 essential literary devices. The next literary device is symbolism in combination with motif. So I'm going to share with you one device that was used as symbolism. However, it was also used as a motif. But first, I will explain what each of these terms means. Symbolism is a literary device that uses symbols, be they words, people, marks, locations, or abstract ideas, to represent something beyond the literal meaning. Whereas a motif is a repeated element that has symbolic significance to a story. The defining aspect is that a motif repeats, and through this repetition, a motif helps bring to life the themes and gives deeper meaning to the story. So the most significant motif that I noticed repeating throughout the film was the church hat, the crown and glory, y'all. The church hat has significant meaning to the African American church community. Prior to the 20th century, African American women wore eye-catching head coverings during church service, as Sundays were a time of rest, worship, and celebration. However, for enslaved women, we're looking at you, Trinity. Metaphorically, this provided a rare opportunity to assert one's individuality. So throughout the film, there was this one particular hat that Trinity just loved. However, Pastor Curtis Lee did not like it and didn't want her to wear it. However, Trinity decided to wear this hat in the movie's final scenes. He asked her to remove it, but she refused. This was her rare opportunity to assert her individuality. She had let him, her mother, and the community define her identity. So she would not let him, in this moment, have that. Okay, now the following literary device is metaphors, and metaphor figuratively compares and equates two things that are not alike. Most metaphors highlight central themes. So once you figure out what theme you want to highlight, it's time to choose a metaphorical comparison that is both evocative and clear. However, a good metaphor is subtle, not literal. For instance, I identified two metaphors in Honk for Jesus. The first metaphor is the use of bubblegum. We see it used 3 times throughout the movie, so it was also used as a motif. The first time we see the bubblegum, Pastor Curtis Lee steps in it. Then the next time we see a girl blowing the bubblegum and pops it. Finally, the last time we see the gum, Trinity steps in it. So my interpretation is that they were stuck in their BS, and the big comeback that they are expecting will blow up in their face. Now, the other metaphor I noticed is when someone was doing donuts in the church parking lot at the end of the movie. Now, I have 2 interpretations of that. First, I believe they are burning themselves into the ground by continuing that same circular pattern. They refuse to see the error of their ways, so their behaviors remain constant. It's like a hamster on a hamster wheel. Now, I also think it means the pattern remains constant even for the rival church. The new pastor and first lady are basically picking up where the child's left off. So for the black predatorial megachurches as a whole, they're infinitely on the wheel of burnout. That's why I believe Ebo left the film open-ended. No one is willing to break the cycle. Okay, so those were my thoughts. What are your interpretations of the film? Please let me know in the comment section. What was your favorite part of this video? If you made it this far and haven't hit the subscribe button, then what are you waiting for? Like, seriously. And don't forget to turn on your notifications. Also, if you want to learn more about becoming a screenwriter, this video, What Does a Screenwriter Do for a Movie Production, will be an excellent resource. So check it out now.